What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. Link will be in the description box below as usual. Go get it. PayPal link in the link also. They asked me to put it up, so I put it up. Thank you, everybody, for supporting. Meant PayPal in the description, whatever. But this video is entitled Equality versus Fairness. Earlier today, I was watching Undisputed, Skip and Shannon, but they weren't on there. Well, a clip of it. Mark Schlereth was on, and he was talking about the difference between, everybody's not equal, but you want to be treated fairly. So there's a difference between equality and fairness. And we got into a part of that on tonight's Brother Pill, talking about paternity fraud. So in life, people want equality, racial equality, right? You want gender equality. You want income equality. And to be equal is for you to have the equal opportunities and equal treatment as everybody else. But here's the problem with equality. Everybody's not equal. So it's hard to have equality when everybody's not equal, because some people are more talented than other people. That's just the fact of life. Some people are just better at certain things than other people. So when you have people who have extreme talent, or talent that's just above yours, you want them to be treated equal to you when you're of lesser talent. That's a problem, right? And this is part of the reverse of when people use affirmative action as an ideology, and they say you are only high because of affirmative action. What they're trying to say is you're not equal to me. That may not be true, but that's how they're trying to use it. So, and on the flip side, affirmative action is looked at as, I won't get these opportunities if I'm better than you. So I'm trying to equal the playing field, level. Like people say, they want to level the playing field, and because you can't normally make people equal, but you could try to make the playing field equal. And that's what comes to play with fairness, right? Because you have to be delusional to think that everybody is equal. But you do have the common sense to understand that you can treat people fairly, right? Like this person may bring more to the table than you, or you may bring more to the table than them. So you may get or they may get more preferential treatment or a little more leeway with certain things, right? Because they're able to do more and produce more than you are. But when you stop being fair to them as a person, and you're not fair to the human experience, or doing what's just, regardless. There are certain principles and rules you just do not break, no matter how talented people are, because it sets a bad precedent. And not just for you, but it sets a bad precedent for whatever system you're working under. And what I mean by that is this. You have a team. You have a star player on your team. Fine. If they want to get a little extra rest, they can. They're the star player. They put in the most work, so they may need the most rest. So that's understandable. But they gotta show up to practice. They can't just show up to the game. You get what I'm saying? I ain't going. I'm gonna just show up to the game. See, that's not fair now, because now people are working and they're not working. Now they're just showing up. That's detrimental to the system as itself, because now you're letting laziness slide in the industry where you preach hard work, dedication, and teamwork. Now you're just letting, you don't have to work hard. You don't have to be dedicated, and you don't have to be a team. You could just be a bunch of individuals showing up whenever you feel like it. So that's where, fairness comes into play. That's the other thing about equality. You can't control. See, the thing about equality is nobody can control the circumstances they're born in. You don't control your race, your you don't control your age because you don't control when you're born. You don't control your gender. You don't control your race. You don't control the economic status of your family that you're born into. You don't control where you're gonna, you know, where your family's gonna live and how it's gonna affect you. You don't control the schools you're going to. You don't control any of that. You know, so some people are born in good situations and some people are born in bad situations. You can't make that equal because that's out of everybody's control. But what you can make it is fair. You know, if a kid born in a good situation is going to school and they're not as smart as a kid born into a bad situation, and we're talking about an academic scholarship as far as leveling the playing field, the better student wins. So if the kid born in a good situation has a 3.0 and the kid born in a bad situation has a 3.5, guess what? Out of the grading scale itself lets you know who's doing good and who's doing bad, right? You know who's more consistent, who's smarter on a regular basis. That's the fairness. Now, when you say, you know, well, this kid was born in a better neighborhood, so I'm gonna go with them because they are more accustomed to successful surroundings. Or you may say something like the kid born in a bad neighborhood might not have been in a better school than a kid born in a good neighborhood. So his 3.0 could have possibly been a 3.8 in that bad school because we don't know how that school, because we assume that school is lenient or on its students, and its smart students aren't as smart as we say they are, right? And I've seen this happen. I mean, years ago when I was in high school, um, my high school was like a hodgepodge. It was in the hood. Good athletic programs, predominantly basketball, wrestling, and track. Okay, predominantly black school. We had a mix of, so we had a lot of great athletes, a lot of professional athletes came out of that school or still come out of that school. But ironically, at the time, we had one of the best physics programs. So, and we had a lot of Mensa students who were, you know, coming from this school. Like it was like people were like, how to, you know, honor society, Mensa, all that stuff. Like, so there's a lot of smart kids, but it was a bad neighborhood, you know, mixed with a lot of gangs and a lot of we had a juvie school too. Like you know, you could come if you got kicked out of our school, you go to a juvie school. You know, juvenile, you know, like criminal, whatever. But you can get out of the juvie and come back to the school if you got it together. So it was a hodgepodge in that way. So people would on the outside would say, you know, that's the the hood school, the thuggish school, the gangster school. But because of the academic programs, it kind of threw a wrench in people's affirmative action ideology. So that's the thing about fairness, right? Because just because you're in a good area doesn't mean you're in a good school. Like people know they go if you've been in the suburbs long enough, there are a lot of schools in the suburbs that are good as far as veneer. They're good, they're new, they're pristine, they got all the bells and the whistles, but their students aren't that bright. You know, and people will tell you, you know, even in the suburbs, they want their children to go to particular schools. Certain high schools they don't want to mess with because it's not the academic competition or the athletic competition is subpar. So there's no iron sharpening iron. And this is the thing about equality and fairness. Because people confuse the two. They're similar, but they're not the same. So when you find yourself in a situation where you want equality, you have to ask, are you even equal to the person or the persons that you're asking equality from? Because this is where all the privilege comes from. This person has, white privilege or male privilege or female privilege or economic privilege or any type of social capital. But that doesn't mean, that's nepotism and inheritances. That gives you a leg up on a person. You may not be able to be equal to that, but if you're more intelligent, you're more skilled, you're able to generate or produce better. You're able to generate an audience or an income better than other people. Then that makes you. Then they can't equal to you. They may have inherited a lot of things, but they can't produce a lot of things. And you may have not inherited anything, but you can produce a lot. So you're actually not equal. But fairness comes in where society, who's the most productive. Ultimately, if the rich kid is more productive than the poor kid, you got to go with the rich kid. He's the one that's productive. But if the poor kid is more productive than the rich kid, then you go with the poor kid because they're more productive. That's fairness. Don't confuse the two. They're not synonymous. So we out on this one. Peace.